What up? Today's episode, I'm gonna be going over on how to make a
We gonna be okay
type beat. Okay. So for these okay beats, let me preface this that two really main things if you're trying to make an okay beat, that like some key ideas that you need are, first thing that separates okay beats from other producers, other beats, is the layering of melodies. So it's kind of a broad term, beat making, but when I think of okay, I think of like kind of these like lush, like full soundscapes. In some of the beats you can't really pinpoint just one sound. It kind of all comes together to form a big picture. Like obviously not every beat is like that, but I think that's something that separates him from other producers. And then the second big thing is that you need a loud hard hitting 808s. Like that's a must. And then like on top of that, I'd mention that you also need I don't want to say simple, but like the 808, you need to find an 808 motif that fits on your beat. Two main points for okay beats is lush, no, forget the word lush. Let's focus on one, layer melodies, and then two, get your 808s right. Okay, so let's begin. So for my first sound that I put down here, I use Triton. And for okay beat, you can use any plugin. Yeah, I guess it depends on a certain like beat that you're trying to replicate, but you can use a lot of different sounds. Like that's another thing that I notice in okay beats. Like he's really creative in his sound selection, and so here I'll play it here. I use the string sound. So yeah, something in okay beats is kind of having, I don't know what you'd call this. It's just kind of a really simple repeating pattern. And then I just went in, picked another sound that I liked, which happened to be this next one. And then, so something with this is right when I was punching in this MIDI, I started with just this simple pattern laying on top of it. So like, right, do this. So on top of that, it sounds like this. Right, it's just adding a little bit more layers, right? Just adding a little bit more. And then like these notes here, because they're like at a higher sonic range, then those notes act as kind of like their own standout thing, but within the same sound. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I guess it's like a half layer, we'll call that. And then again, I just like, you see on its own, like it sounds interesting, but this is not good at all, right? But it's about the layer that it adds. Just a little bit more frequencies and harmonics. It makes it sound more full, and that's what we're going for. The fourth and final sound that I added is a little bit more, I guess, melodic. Here, I'll play it here. And so the full melody sounds like that. Or my thought process behind this is just to give a, right, like those three other sounds, they're kind of drawn out and ambient. And so this is just like giving it more character. So it's like really simple, but it works. And then for the drums, I kept it really simple. Like the only beat that I can think of where OK went pretty crazy on the drums is I Eat Humans by Isaiah TG. But for most of his beats, it's a pretty simple like 2-step hi-hat pattern. Like if you feel like you need it, you can do like some rolls and all that, but nothing too crazy. And then just a simple 2-step hi-hat and a clap or like snare. Classic hi-hat, and then for your clap, you want something that's kind of loud. You don't really want anything that's soft, but yeah, something that punches through. That leaves us with the 808, and I'll play the pattern here. And then yeah, so for 808s, you want something that's hitting hard. This is probably the most typical OK 808. It's just a boosted spins pretty much. Yeah, anything that sounds right to you. Believe it or not, making this pattern, like eventually finding this pattern on the beat was kind of difficult for me. I didn't record me making this beat, but if I had to guess, it took me like 15 minutes to make this, believe it or not. But I eventually landed on it, and I think this sounds good to me. I mentioned motif earlier, and so I started with just boom, boom, right? Just those 2 notes hitting, and then I duplicated it, so then that's 4 bars, and then I just add an extra note, and then duplicate it again, and then the last 4 bars, I just spiced it up a little bit. Like as it goes, it kind of changes, so it's not just these 2, but the majority of the 808 line is these 2 notes motifs. Like you don't want anything, you kind of don't want it go all over the place, if that makes sense. You want to keep it kind of simple like that, but then hard hitting. To get your 808s to hit hard is there's no like one secret trick. Like it just depends how you mix the beat. Basically I just like cutting lows. Like sometimes you don't even really need to cut the lows. Like you can, like in my instance here, right, these sounds, I wanted them to be really full. So instead of cutting the lows, I just used a shelf. So the fullness of the sound is still there, but the lows aren't clashing as much with the 808. And like to make it hit hard, I just like turn the 808 up volume wise. And then something I do like to do in Ableton is I just put this like multi-band compressor preset on it, restore punch, and it just sounds good to me. The master, I have a standard clip. I barely did anything with it because the beat was already pretty loud. Arrangement, you don't even have to do nothing too crazy. Like you could probably just loop this over. I mean, like obviously do more than that. Yeah, I mentioned you can add more sounds. Like I didn't get around to it, but I like hear like a glidey lead on this beat, but as it stands, this is a pretty solid OK beat.